Nothing really brings people together like seeing a group of obnoxious rich people having to eat a hefty serving of humble pie, and that is exactly what happens in the new thriller comedy Blink Twice. So does this movie have what it takes to be the surprise hit of the summer, or do we have another misfire on our hands here? Let's talk about it. What's up, guys? I'm Sully, and today we're talking about the directorial debut from Zoe Kravitz, which is the new thriller comedy Blink Twice. All you need to know about this one is that the story goes like this. When tech billionaire Slater King meets cocktail waitress Frida at his fundraising gala, he invites her to join him and his friends on a dream vacation on his private island. As strange things start to happen, Frida questions her own reality. Now, right off the bat, I'll tell you that I'm someone that really enjoys spending time with a good thriller that has a twisted sense of humor to go along with it. You know, The Menu, Parasite, American Psycho. Those are some of the films that immediately come to mind for me that knock that tough juggling act out of the park. Because balancing those two tones evenly is no easy task, but if you're somehow able to have me on the edge of my seat 1 second and then laughing my butt off the next, you've probably gone ahead and created a slick little movie in the process. And that's exactly what a film like Blink Twice is trying to pull off here. A ridiculous, over-the-top thrill ride that grips you from the start and doesn't let go. And even though there are a lot of good pieces crammed in here, the script and the pacing are really holding this one back from being anything more than a one-time watch. Now, when it comes to the overall story and direction, we have Zoe Kravitz in the driver's seat here, helming her first film, and I think with that in mind, she did a solid enough job. From a technical perspective, I think she really showed off how good of an eye she has, because the shots were colorful, they were well framed, and they have this symmetry to them that almost gave off shades of Wes Anderson, strangely enough. But once you get into the meat and potatoes of the plot at hand here, which Zoe Kravitz also wrote, that's when things start to get pretty messy. She tries to tackle a lot over the course of this film, and I have to commend her with just how bold she goes with the conclusion of this movie, but when we're talking about a thriller, keeping up the suspense and the tension throughout the entire runtime is pretty much non-negotiable. And I think after the initial setup, there's a real lull for a good 45 minutes of the film where we're just observing these characters during all their vacation bliss, but we truly learn nothing about them while that's going on. And not putting in the necessary legwork to establish more of a backstory or emotional attachment kind of lessens the satisfaction of the movie's final 15 minutes. On top of that, without going into specifics as to not give anything away, I think the trail of breadcrumbs and the hints given over the course of the story leading up to the shocking reveal makes it so obvious and predictable about what's to come next that even though what they show us is pretty damn graphic and aggressive, you're probably expecting it, which doesn't make what you're seeing as impactful as it could have been. I just think a more skilled writer and director would have been able to handle that in a much more polished fashion. I mean, you look at something like what Jordan Peele did with Get Out. That movie is basically a masterclass in pacing, which is a lesson that a film like this really could have benefited from. Let's talk about the performances here for a second, because a movie like this really lives and dies by the cast being able to properly navigate around all of the twists and turns. And I gotta be honest here for a second. I never really know what to think of Channing Tatum. I mean, to me, he's one of those guys where he needs to be perfectly utilized in a project to get what you want out of him. Like, I'll see him in something like Jupiter Ascending and think he has the charisma of a lawnmower, but then I'll see him in something like The Hateful Eight and go, now wait a second, I might have actually judged this guy a little too harshly. And he does okay here. He's pretty one note throughout the whole film, but for the most part it works. Naomi Ackie plays the main character in this movie, and we see a lot of what unfolds specifically through her lens, and I think that was a good decision from a story perspective. Hanging out on a billionaire's private island isn't a situation that's all that relatable to the common man, so having a cocktail waitress at the center of this whole thing that ends up being a fish out of water in a foreign landscape is really what keeps a shred of believability alive. She was very solid. The rest of the cast here, unfortunately, isn't given a lot to do outside of just drinking and screaming. I will say, though, that if Adria Arjona isn't careful, she's going to be the biggest star that was involved with this movie in just a few years' time. She's been killing absolutely everything recently, and I'm very here here for it, but with a cast like this at your disposal, not hitting a home run really makes it feel that much more disappointing. Overall, guys, Blink Twice ended up being a very mixed bag for me. There is definitely an entertaining, thrilling, and topical story at the heart of this film, but the script and the pacing just doesn't allow it to reach anywhere near its full potential. Other than the movie's leads, the cast is kind of wasted here, as we don't have a true reason to become emotionally invested or attached to them before shit starts to hit the fan, which really diminishes the film's overall impact. I think Zoe Kravitz definitely has a future sitting in the director's chair, but her first film just didn't land with me as much as I had hoped. Blink Twice gets a Sully score of 2.5 stars. So that's my review for the latest thriller film. What do you think is the best thriller to come out in the past decade? I'd probably have to say Get Out or Fresh, but let me know in the comments below what you think. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys at the next one.